Start speaking. Okay. Welcome to the first live session on applied linguistics with me. My name is Rajesh Kumar. You have seen me on the videos. I hope you're doing well with this course. And we have arranged this thing to have our interactions live today for questions that you have. We have seen several questions on the course forum. We have tried to respond to a lot of them. I'm sure you have a lot many more questions for us to answer. I'll be happy to answer your questions when you send it to us. So looking forward to your questions. I am also looking forward to that in Jamal. Looking forward to a wonderful session with all of you. Let me know your questions that you have. We have seen some administrative questions on the forum, such as questions about some assignments. I want to assure all of you that you submit your assignments. We are looking at it closely, and if there is any error in it, we will be fixing it. So you don't need to worry much about the grading part of the assignments. Next assignment is online. Please look at it carefully and send your answers on time. You can make it small. We have questions. So what will be answering? We'll wait for their questions. Good evening, Rahul. I see your question. Send us your questions if you have. Rahul, I see your question. Principles and parameters actually help us understand how we learn language. And it helps us understand the structure in the sense that how language is structured in human mind. As you have seen, uh, a section on language acquisition, we are all born with a unique human capacity, which is the capacity for learning language. We learn language, and only humans learn language. So this is a hypothetical, or what we say is we are all born with a hypothetical learning device. It's called language acquisition device. And this has universal grammar inbuilt in it, which has essentially two parts. One is principle and the other is parameters. So principles refer to common things about language, and parameters are the features along which languages vary from one another. So when we get input from our society, we see the parameters get triggered, and that helps learn language. So in the course of understanding the whole process, when we try to make it explicit, it helps us understand the structure of language. Hope this helps you understand. This answers your question. Next. Any other question? Feel free to ask about anything that you have observed so far, your experience in general, about anything that I have discussed in these videos. Sukanya, that's a very significant thing, Sukanya. It's applied linguistics and linguistics applied. These are two terms which we have a handbook of applied linguistics, and that handbook in the introductory section, introductory chapter, explains these things in detail. So I would refer to you to the introductory chapter of Handbook of Applied Linguistics to look at. If we don't have this online already, send me an email, post it online on the forum. I'll send the entire section on this introductory chapter for you to read. It's a very as you know, what applied linguistics means is when we use our understanding of language in a systematic way to look at some real life issues that relate to language. These are the things that is called that fall in the paradigms of applied linguistics. That's right, in Zimamal. Dialect is the term that we use for different varieties of language. Dialect is really a politically sensitive term. As you know, in the entire domain of the study of language that is called linguistics, dialect simply means language. Dialect is merely another term for language. That is because all languages are considered equal. No language is better or worse than the others. No language is more difficult or less difficult than the other. In short, what we mean is all languages are equal to one another. They are all the same. And this we understand from how we look at how we understand language learning and language acquisition in generative linguistic paradigm, particularly after 1957. So in short, again, dialect is another term for language. However, to be little bit more sociolinguistically accurate, we can use the term dialect for a variety, different varieties of language, as long as we have clarified it and we understand what we mean. If we are using the term dialect, if we are using the term dialect to understand, to talk about differences between languages or different languages, then it is not a correct way of looking at it. So that's the primarily distinction between language and dialect. Now, your question is about, so as long as we are talking about different varieties, we are fine. Your question is about accent and how is it different from dialect. As we understand, we use the term accent precisely in the domains as you have mentioned, American accent, British accent, and so on. You see, it depends on, it's how we speak language is related to how our vocal tract gets modified, how it gets trained, how it gets organized. So if we grow up speaking American variety of English, then we train our vocal tract for sounds of American English. And when our vocal tract and different places of articulation is accustomed for producing the sounds of a particular language, then that is referred to as accent of that particular language. However, the term accent is also little derogatory as the term dialect is. If we use them in technical sense, then they are not derogatory terms. I hope this helps. So Kanya, I didn't understand. You were asking about your confusion in what sense? What is confusing? I just mentioned that about applied linguistics and the distinction that this chapter makes between applied linguistics and linguistics applied. So we will be sending you that introductory chapter online if it is not already there, for you to look at it in details if it is not becoming clear. Next. Pusparaj Singh Ranawat, I see your question. It's about compounding. Compounding is a word formation process. We create new words through that. I am not sure what you want me to clarify. Uh, uh, what you want me to clarify about compounding? Can you please explain your question so that I can try it better? We have seen a question related to that on the course forum about this. I think it is from you. I'm still responding to Pusparaj Singh Ranawat. So please let me know your question in little bit more detail, and then I can talk it. As far as compounding is concerned, it is one of the processes of word formation. And I'm not sure if we have talked about compounding in this course on applied linguistics, but nonetheless, I'll be happy to answer that question. Which question are you talking about, Sukanya? You were writing that you have asked some other people and they did not answer satisfactorily. Are you talking about computational linguistics? What is computational linguistics? Is that what you're asking about? Okay, so computational linguistics is simple in the sense that the application application of linguistics tool, that is the things that we know about language through the study of language to design a better machine, is still part of applied linguistics. However, computational linguistics, the difference, so that is still applied linguistics. That is use of our understanding of language to make a better machine. That is part of applied linguistics. The use of computers to explain certain aspects of language is the domain that is called applied linguistics. So that is what applied linguistics is about. For example, when we look at large set of data and generate a search engine, or when we create a large corpus of sounds and it helps identify sounds of individuals, that is the domain. These are the things that people do in the domain of applied linguistics. I'm sorry, in the domain of computational linguistics in short. So hope that helps. Okay, in the fourth week assignment, there was a question on compounding. Okay. All right, that's fine. You are confused in the concept of compounding in words. Still don't understand the confusion, but okay, I'll look at the week four assignment to look at what the confusion was post-processing. But as far as I still see your question, compounding is I will, as I told you, I will look at question 4. We'll look at quiz for week 4 and then see what questions we have talked about. But as far as compounding is concerned, it's a word formation process in morphology, and we can use another word to create a new compound, or sometimes we can use. I see you're writing something about prefixes and suffixes, so it is confusing me also. But I will look at this week 4 question. Do we have access to week 4 assignment here? Do we access assignment? Week 4. Well, we are checking that, and we will respond. I'll respond to that. But I hope you understand that I can only understand from your question what is compounding. Compounding is a word formation process in morphology. How it relates to a specific question of week 4 assignment, we are checking that, and we will respond to that. Inflections change grammatical category of inflections. Change the grammatical category of the word. So, Anya, in what context are you asking this question? Inflections change grammatical category of a word. Depends on what kind of inflection it is. If it is plural marking morpheme on a noun, then it won't change the category of a word. Even with the plural marking morpheme on a noun, the noun remains a noun. Okay. This is also part of week 4 assignment. We are looking at that. Give me a minute. We will look at that. We are looking at week 4 assignment. You just want to see days of the week 4 assignment. Only the questions. And there seems to be. We seem to have several questions on week 4 assignment. Okay, next. Okay, there was a question which was a little confusing on week 4. Okay, we are checking that. We'll let you know shortly. So are there only 3-4 people here who have these questions, or are there other people who are just patiently listening and not answering, not asking any question? Big fall. Big fall. Oh, so if we go to the section where we have got assignments. Assignments. Before assignment consisted any questions from the given written material in the level using terms where compounding, inflection, bound morphemes. Why are these terms confusing, Pushparaj? Wait a minute. Most of the languages have aspirated sounds, Sukanya, but it is not necessary that all languages must have aspirated sounds. So sound is totally parametric for different languages. I'm coming back to this Pushparaj thing about the terms like compounding. Like I said, we'll talk about compounding in a minute. Inflection. Inflection is the term used for Pushparaj. I'm particularly talking about the terms that you have mentioned. Inflection is used for terms, grammatical categories like plural marking morphemes, tense, agreement, aspects. Agreement includes things like number, person, gender. All these things are together termed as inflection, and therefore we have a term called inflectional category, inflectional phrase for a sentence. Bound morphemes. Bound morphemes is the term for morphemes which do not stand on their own. For example, plural marking morphemes in English like sa or za are bound morphemes, which do not sustain on its own, will be a bound morpheme. So I don't see how these terms were confusing. What was confusing about this term? Did you not understand what inflection means, or did you not understand in the context these terms were used? That's all right. Don't worry, Sukanya. Typos are fine. So, is the answer clear to you about aspirated sounds? Not all languages are required to have aspirated sounds. However, it is available in many languages of the world. That's okay. Well, I'll check the assignment for anxiety. Sorry? Lakshmi. I saw a message from Bharati here. What was that about? Does linguistics have a bearing on translating transcripts? How? Does linguistics have a bearing on translating transcript? Yes, Bharati. Linguistics does have consequences for translation. I'm thinking how. Let me explain this to you. It's a see, there are three specific layers of language. One is sounds, the other is words, and finally it's sentences, in that order. So how we understand each of these levels and connection between all three will have serious consequences for how concepts or terms or the entire discourse gets translated from one language to another. There are terms like there are terms in one language which may not be available in the other language. So, for example, if we are saying things like I like the sweets that are sold in Delhi. So determiners and definite articles are not used in the same way they are used in English in other languages. Like most South Asian languages do not have article systems, do not make a distinction between definite and indefinite in terms of the use of a particular article. So when we are translating something from English to South Asian languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Marathi, Hindi, or for that matter any, we need to understand what specific strategies are for marking definiteness in these languages. And that will be useful for a translator to understand how these things get translated. Otherwise, we will be missing this completely, and then we will end up misrepresenting certain aspects which might be critical for the purpose of translation. So I'm just giving you one simple example from this. However, issues like discourse analysis and trying to understand larger chunk of data and discourse from one language to another, this might be a completely different ball game. Translating things line by line or word by word in a different language is also not either required or desired at times. What is also important for us is to look at the entire discourse and then present it in another language. There is a term which is in use in this domain these days. It is called instead of translation, there is a term called transcreation, and the use of translanguaging and understanding translanguaging is also significant for translators to understand. Sukanya, all sentences must have subjects. Yes, the answer is correct. All sentences in all languages must have subject. What that means is subject is a grammatical notion, and without us, there are two parts of a sentence. One is subject and the other is predicate. a sentence is not complete until we have both the parts. However, there are situations where subjects can be dropped. For example, in imperative sentences like sit down please, get out, give me a glass of water, these types of sentences that are called imperative sentences allow dropping of subjects across languages. That is because following the principle of economy, what languages do is when the subject is predictable, that is second person pronoun, it drops. That is, languages tend to drop subjects in imperative sentences. That does not mean these types of sentences do not have subjects. So I want you to make a distinction between when we say all sentences must have subjects, this is universally true. And then I'm giving you counter examples where it appears that sentences do not have subjects overtly, but the sentences do have subjects. In a lot of other languages, for example, South Asian languages follow pro-drop parameter. And in these languages, because of because these languages are inflectionally rich, lot of these languages allow us to drop subjects and sometimes objects too. That is because they are retrievable from the available inflection in the sentence. Again, that is not in contradiction with the universal principle that every sentence must have a subject. Hope that makes sense. There was one more question. Once that verbs can stand on its own. Verbs can stand on its own in a sentence, not in a sentence, but because verb is a significant part of verb is a significant part of predicate, and predicate subcategorizes for a subject. That is, predicates must have predicates need a subject to form a good sentence, that is a grammatical sentence, a complete sentence. Can we take society as an abstract concept? Society as an abstract concept, not clear. Several aspects of society is abstract, and as a notion, society is abstract. Not sure what else you mean, Rahul, by society as an abstract concept. Sri Lakshmi, since the sentence pattern of languages are different, how can we combine them under same rules? Sentence patterns of language is not different, Sri Lakshmi, from language to language. What is different is only order of words in a sentence. For example, some sentences are OV, some languages are OV because they have object and verb order. I'm talking about the order of constituents in a sentence, like subject, object, and verb, and subject, verb, and object. Most of our languages from South Asia are verb final, that is subject, object, and verb, and most of and a language like English is verb medial language, which is subject, verb, and object. These are parametric. However, every language, what we mean by sentence pattern being similar is all languages must have a subject. all sentences, I'm sorry, all sentences in all languages must have a subject. All sentences must have a predicate. These are the principles along which sentence patterns are similar in all languages. Pushparaj, I am coming back to your post again. You are writing answer for assignment 1, week 1. That is a study about the use of language. Study about the use of language, that is pragmatics, is marked wrong, and marks have been deducted. So study about the use of language is not pragmatics, Pushparaj. Pragmatics is the study of the context. It's a branch of semantics. It's not really about the use of language. The use of language is largely connected with sociolinguistics as far as I understand. Rahul, just like phonemes are abstract in the same way, can society be taken as abstract concept? This is like phonemes are abstract in language. It's tough to compare society with phonemes, Rahul. I don't think we can make that comparison conclusively. However, in probably you have something very specific in mind. It will be tough for me to comment on that. I don't think society will be as abstract a concept as we have phonemes in languages, because what we see is what is phoneme? Phoneme is a abstract representation of sound, and what we speak and we use are allophones. So it is possible that one phoneme may have only one allophone. So in that sense of abstraction, we say we use one phone and it also has one phoneme. It will be hard to maintain this when we are talking about society in that sense. However, if you mean that society is one abstract notion, and then what we see as representation are different societies, and so many societies together make a broader thing called society. Probably may make some sense in that context, but like I said, it's tough to make a comparison. Sukanya Saha, one more time. You are writing, it would be interesting to know how grammar of sentence construction came into existence. Also, will languages keep on evolving and these rules change eventually in future? How rules came into existence, it's hard to again comment. This is about, or is the question is about origin and development of language. And origin of language has been one of the most difficult things to investigate or to research. People have not had much luck in that. When did language, questions such as when did language origin, we won't be able to answer that question. However, origin of grammatical rules in language, ever since people have been speaking, whatever they have been speaking, that is grammatical, and that follow an abstract grammatical pattern, and that is underlying grammatical pattern. Talking about What's the other part of the question? Talking about uh, uh, talking about will these rules change eventually? What we can say conclusively is languages do change. We do see quite significant change in languages over a short period of time, like 20 years. However, such changes to be visible, it takes much longer than, I mean, many changes to be visible, it takes much longer than that. So, uh, languages do change, and grammatical changes are possible as well, but grammatical changes are the last ones. Such a change is very slow. Another question that you have is, if signifier and signified is arbitrary, then is it possible that all and is it possible that all these changes all these changes altogether in future? Yeah, these notions won't change, like signifier and signified, but what is but language will definitely change during in due course of time. Abrogative language. What is Sri Lakshmi? I do not know this term. Abrogate. What is this? Abrogative language used by native speakers. Do you mean something else by this term? I haven't. Can you please help me understand what you mean by abrogative terms, abrogative language, and I will try to respond to that. I'm not going offline. I'm just taking a look at the question. Let me check before assignment. Before assignment. This only has video, it seems, right? So I think to get the assignment, we need to go back to the course portal. This only has video. Let's see if we can download video and all this. How do we go to course portal? Yeah, another question? I'm still waiting for you, Sri Lakshmi. Please help me understand abrogative language used by native speakers. Use of language by native speaker, I understand, but I'm not sure about abrogative use of native speakers. Abrogative use of language. So, Sri Lakshmi, basically what you mean is it is hard to deliver a message in another language. Speaker of another language will find it hard to deliver a message in the native language of that area. That simply means it is hard for us to deliver a message in the language that is not native to us. That is what you mean. And will it be possible to practice and speak a language fluently through practice? It is possible to speak a language through practice. It is possible to speak a language fluently through. First of all, what I want to say is it is possible to speak a language fluently, particularly a language which is not, which is a second language for someone, which is not a language which is which was learned post critical period hypothesis, post critical period. Will it be hard to deliver concepts in that language? Not necessarily. However, it is hard to understand things in a language that is not native to us. More? Did we lose? Oh. Nobody is there? Check. No more questions. That's no questions. No, there is one more person. Very good. Sri Lakshmi, semantics and sociolinguistics are two different branches of the study of language. In semantics, we study aspects of language that is related to meaning in particular, and sociolinguistics is the domain in which we study relationship between language and society. So these are two separate domains of the study of language. Professor Rajput, thank you so much for your compliments. Uh, it, it's always good to be available live, to be able to talk to people in live sessions. That's what I feel. We will try to take more questions and answer them in more details, at least once more, or maybe more than once during the before the session of this course ends. Thank you so much, sir. Let's wait for some more thing. Okay, no problem. More. Kirti works. The study about the use of language in assignment 1 answered pragmatics. I do not have access to assignment 1 right now. I will look at it and respond to that. We are trying to get assignments. We are unable to access it right now. So we'll look at it and tell you the use of language. What I can say convincingly at this time is pragmatics is the study of the context of language, context in language. Shall we wait for more time? 2 minutes. Only 1 hour. Okay. All right. So we have 2 more minutes left for this session. I think it will automatically switch off. So if you have anything else, please send us your questions. I must mention one more thing. My apologies to many of you in advance if we take some time in responding to those questions, to some of these questions. But trust me, we appreciate your questions very much. and we will definitely answer all the questions that you put online. So please feel free to send us your questions. It helps us learn further. Thank you so much.